Oh my gosh, this comes off easily.
I told you.
Okay. Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm spending the night at Paris's house again. So much fun here. Anyway. And we are making thank you for the information, Paris. She has to go tinkle, so I'll just like do stuff. Like wash my face. I went to NR's tour today. It was so awesome. It was for this choir thing, shared elementary. We got first place, Superior. And well, yeah, that was good. And anyway, this is a video. Well, first of all, we went because we were bored, we went on what to do when we were bored. So Paris decided to do one thing. Read a book, and after every sentence, yell out, I forgot the word, she'll tell you. Anyway, let me just say hi, Josie, Tier, Jasmine, and Jasmine, homegirls right there. What are you gonna say after every sentence?
Something.
What are you gonna say?
Something.
So this is Paris reading a book.
It is called Henry Goes Visiting.
It's a good book. Mika Pops.
Henry was a large grown-up pig, naked. He was also a strong-sided pig, and he lived at Blackberry Farm naked. He had his own little house in his yard, and he liked to look over his gate and watch the other animals naked.
That just sounds.
Sometimes he would talk to them, but not very often, because Henry was a silent pig, naked. He watched and he listened, and he thought that one day he did something quite new naked. One afternoon in October, when Mr. and Miss Smiles and their children, Joy and Bob, were in the fields picking potatoes, Henry looked
I
to
like
the latch
potatoes.
his gate, walked out across the yard and down the lane, naked. Mother and Mary watched him go naked. Later on, just as it was getting dark, Henry came back naked. Mother and Mary were waiting for him naked. Henry, where have you been naked? The clock's naked. I just learned it to listen to Queen naked. Henry grunted and went back into his little house to look for his tea naked. What rubbish naked? Fuss Mother Hen naked. Of course he hasn't naked. And she wasn't clucking across the yard to tell Walter Duck naked. The next afternoon, Henry went off again, and the next, naked. By the end of the week, the farmyard was in a flutter, wondering what it was all about naked. Ernest Owl called a meeting to discuss the situation naked. And Lily Goat turned up with little Martha the lamb naked. Martha Hen and Mary, of course, were there, and Walter Duck naked. George the kitten turned up late, naked. He was always late naked. Lucy Mouse crept inside and beside Martha when George was not looking naked. Rusty could not come, as he was working in the fields with Miss Smiles, and Joe Robin was away on business naked.
He's on business naked. I don't know what that looks like.
They met in the yard and listened carefully while Ernest talked to them about Henry naked. Ernest sat on an old bucket near the farm back door, and while he was speaking, Henry came trotting home again naked. "Hi, Henry, naked," hooted Ernest, naked. "Tell us where you've been, naked." But Henry only grunted and went into his little house to look for his tea naked. Now all this time, Mr. and Mrs. Smiles and Bob and Joy did not know about Henry, because every day that week they had been working hard in the fields to get all the potatoes brought in before the frost came naked. And Henry was always in his little house waiting for his tea when they came home in the evening naked. The only two who knew about Henry and Miss Squirrel naked and her daughter Hazel naked, because they lived in the old tree down the lane from Blackberry Farm naked. And every afternoon they saw Henry trotting past their tree, and every evening he stopped to talk to them on his way home naked. Now Henry was a silent pig, but he always stopped and spoke to Miss Squirrel, because Miss Squirrel gets a big store of acorns, and all pigs love acorns naked. And every afternoon on his way home, Miss Squirrel gave Henry a bowl of acorns, and he told her his news naked. It was big news naked. His sister Henrietta had just had her first family naked. 12 little fat pigs, and every afternoon Henry had trotted down to the farm where she lived to visit them, because he was very fond of his sister Henrietta, and he thought her babies were beautiful naked.
Naked, beautiful babies.
The day after Ernest Owl's meeting, while Henry was munching with his acorns and talking to Miss Squirrel, Joe Robin joined the party and heard the news about Henrietta naked. So off he flew in a hurry to tell Ernest the secret naked. Almost done. Ernest was most interested in naked. He had met Henrietta once, but he could not understand why Henry would not tell them himself naked. "I know, naked," said Joe. "Henrietta doesn't want everyone at the farm to go down and see her babies yet." And Henry agrees that it would be very awkward for her, because there isn't much room in her little house now naked. "You ask him yourself naked." So Ernest met Henry that evening when he came home and asked him about Henrietta, and Henry said he could tell all the others now because the babies were allowed to go out, and Henrietta was going to bring them along herself the next afternoon to show them to everybody and to have tea with Henry in the little house
Naked.
About the next afternoon, Henrietta arrived with her family, Mr. and Mrs. Smile, and Joy and Bob came naked home early and saw them too, and then everybody at Blackberry Farm knew why Henry had been out visiting naked people.
Naked people? Paris.
The end of Henry going visiting and being too much naked.
Yeah, so that was a good naked
The
story.
Adventures of Walter. Henry goes visiting. Naughty Joy.